Welcome back to Juncture 119. This is Kellan,
This is Casen.
and I'm ready to yell at Casen for his getup here as we begin the show. I literally just said I got to start by saying this. One of my favorite things is when I start this Zoom call and it says Casen entered the waiting room, and I bring you in, and I'm not really sure what the getup's going to be. I'm not sure what the hat's going to be either.
hmm
And I'll say what
hmm
my hat is in a second too. But I do genuinely like the gear you have on. It looks cool. Um, he showed the hat first, and then he showed the shirt. So what's going on here? Yep, Kansas City Chiefs. Explain yourself.
Yeah. Um, well, I think I've made my thoughts and opinions on sort of the state of the Cleveland Browns pretty well known.
Pretty clear. Yeah.
Um, and if it helps, I purchased these items of merchandise the day the Browns hired Todd Monken.
Oh, okay.
If if that helps. Because
That does help.
it was just such a whirlwind of just like what is even happening with this franchise of like I was so tuned out of the Browns for the last 4 months anyway. And then
Hmm.
there was the long conversation of like it was Jim Schwartz, and then there was the guy from the Rams, and then Todd Monken was like also being talked about, and then they hired Todd Monken anyway, and then it was like, okay. And then there was the whole conversation about Jim Schwartz getting all mad he didn't get the job, and and then they hired Todd Monken so that they would keep Jim Schwartz, and it was just like such a circus, and you're like, what is even happening? Like, I don't even
I
care. I don't even care if they're like half decent anymore. It's just such a circus that like it hurts my brain to even comprehend what's going on.
Listen, this show is good for nothing, if not just a place for us to vent about our teams that make us mad. You know, Lord knows I've done plenty about the Pittsburgh Pirates. You've done
hmm
plenty about the Cleveland Browns. And the older I've gotten, yeah, as I've kind of like entered my early 30s, the more I've thought, you know what, life's too short for me to like actually like have my mental health damaged by this professional sports franchise. And so if you want to find some fandom for another squad, I don't blame you. Especially like nowadays that I live in Northeast Ohio, I got to say the loyalty's crazy, but you know, the Browns aren't the only hurting franchise in the NFL. That said, you know, I know some Jets fans. There's some other folks, but I don't blame you at all. I really don't. And you know, growing up, I always had like an NFC team. I kind of like the New York Giants growing up.
hmm
So
Yeah, I
anyway,
mean, and
yeah.
for like it is objectively funny to to like jump on the wagon officially like after they're bad.
That's
But
true. That's true.
at the same time, I watched and rooted for them in, 3 Super Bowls. So it's like I can't really complain about that. Like I
Very
was
true.
there for all 3 of those.
Well, we're back here. It's been about what over a month since our last show.
Yeah.
As we explained in our last show, we were going to try to do shows sporadically as we could. I have this issue of in my life right now. We're in the midst of what we like to call crossover season during the athletic
hmm
schedule. I have not been free any weekends, whereas Casen has only been free on the weekends. So
Yeah.
you can see the quandary there, but we're exiting that. And this is kind of, I think, sort of the beginning ish of that time of year. This is March. It is officially March. And we're going to get into just kind of a little bit of discussion about some college basketball to lead things off. We're going to do some NBA, NHL check in, kind of like discuss that. And then we're going to wrap it up with some major pop culture news that now is a couple of weeks old, but we haven't weighed in on it yet, and there are opinions definitely floating around. But we begin with a topic that I really have been wanting to pick your brain about, Kason,
hmm
because as an objective, because at the end of the day, you know, you and I are both Bowling Green alumni. We are Mac Sports fans. We are Mac Sports followers, of course. And there
hmm
is a particular Mid American Conference team this year that has undoubtedly been, you know, the belle of the ball, you know, cliches intended there. In college basketball this year, men's college basketball, that is, as we are on the precipice of tourney week, conference tourney week, that is, for men's and women's college basketball. The really both the Miami Redhawks of over in Oxford, Ohio, Their women's team is also incredible this year. That's kind of that's the story.
Hmm.
But the men's team is undefeated. They sit there as of this taping 31-0. When I first was putting the lineup to Casen to talk about this weekend, they were 30-0, and we were going to talk about this even if Ohio had found a way to beat them on Friday night, but that did not happen, and they have gone through. They're 31-0 going into the MAC tournament this next week. Again, as of this taping, and the discussion all year has been what happens to them. It seems that former coach of the Auburn Tigers, Bruce Pearl, has declared war on them in the press. But in reality, I think he's really the only one who has, you know, been outspoken about some opinions that he's not the only one who shares. But
Well,
that is the story. I want you to kind of respond to that, and then we'll kind of get into the story.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll start with it's not like Bruce Pearl doesn't have an interest in the Miami Redhawks not being included in this, potential at-large team conversation,
Absolutely.
because the Auburn Tigers are in fact not good and could use Miami not being in the field.
Coached by his son, of
So,
course. Yeah.
so yes, I saw some tweet where it was like the day that he said that those comments, somebody was like spoken like a father of a son whose Auburn Tigers are 15 and 15 or whatever they are.
15-15.
Uh, um,
Yeah.
and so it's like, yeah, like he has an interest in his son's team getting that spot over Miami.
Yeah,
So,
and the controversy and the quandary comes in just for those of our listeners, viewers who may not be as directly familiar. The Mid-American Conference, along with essentially all mid-major conferences, are essentially one bid leagues. One bid leagues in the sense of they take the conference tournament champion and that's it. And the MAC has been a two bid league in the past. I want to say twice. The last time I want to say was in the late 90s. Now, granted, college basketball and quite frankly, college sports was very different back then. And now is now, and given the circumstances and the controversy, if there is any, for just the folks out there, is the biggest question is if Miami goes 33-0, or if it would be 34-0, if they were to win their three games in the MAC tournament and win it, they're going to get in anyway. They're going to be in the NCAA tournament because they won the MAC. There is another team of which that is floating right there in the Mid American Conference that is just as good as them. If you're not aware, uh, there's been some talk about Miami's lack of strength of schedule. They only played the two teams in the conference that could have probably knocked them off, given a second chance. They only played
mm,
them once, one of which was Kent State here in Kent State, and the other was University of Akron. They only played those two teams once. I think given a second shot could be a different story, but that didn't happen. And so they a lot of people have said their luck's very high. A lot of folks have said a lot of things about the Miami Redhawks. Okay, I'm not sitting here to try and pile on or add anything new, but the question is what happens to them if they make it, say, to the championship game and lose, or they lose in the tournament. And that's the question is like, are they in no matter what? Are they in at large? Are they this? Are they that? At one point this year, we weren't even sure if they were going to be ranked. And then come January, they were. And now I want to just double check here. I believe they're as high as 19
hmm
as of this week. And so they've
yep.
slowly been creeping up there. I even saw a tweet that you'll chuckle at, I think, that said that because Miami, Florida entered the top 25 too. And it's like,
Mm.
whatever Miami's ranked lowest is the one that has to put the state next to their name. And
Yeah.
I was like, come on. Like, really, the state should be next to both of their names. Okay. But,
Yeah.
that is that is the question. I won't say the controversy anymore. That's the question. What happens to this squad? And obviously, we have a whole week that's going to unfold here where we're going to find out. But what's your take on the whole conundrum, Casen?
Um, it's it's kind of a precarious situation because it's like I hope that they both can get in some capacity. Like I hope that if Akron does win the conference championship game, and then if it's particularly close, then Miami can get in that large and we can just avoid this conversation. But I mean I get the point of like Miami beat Akron by was I think three or something, and then and Akron, their only conference loss was that game to Miami, and they um, played a little bit better of a schedule and lost some more games, but I don't know. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I get the arguments, I do, but what I do find very funny is that this conversation is especially heating up because like after going 31 and 0, Akron is favored to win the conference championship, and I'm like, why are we having this
Yep.
conversation? Like, I understand that people kind of think Akron could be a better team, but like I don't know why it would be that why people would be that dead set on oh they're gonna choke in the tournament. Like, why is everybody under that assumption?
Well, I can tell you a little bit of that because I think from where I'm sitting, and granted, obviously, I don't talk about work things on this show too much, but this is kind of one of those rare situations where the worlds can collide, and where I
Mm,
talk about worlds colliding is it has been fascinating to see national media folks. Um, discuss like the conundrum of being in a mid-major conference when a situation like this happens, and we talk about it every single day like at our level,
mm,
both in the office and also just you and I as fans and friends. Like,
mm.
it's like, welcome to our lives, guys. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
how could this team not be in the NCAA tournament? It's like, well, let me tell you, because if they don't win the conference tournament, you committee members are going to snub them, and because it happens all the time, and you guys don't let there to be not you guys don't let these teams, these conferences, be more than one bid leagues. It's sort of like how every time they float around the idea of expanding from 68 to more, it's like, yeah, they do it under the guise of, oh, we're going to put more mid-major teams in there, and it's like, no, you're not. You're going to put more. You're going to put the 15 and 15 Auburn team in there because you'd still rather have the Power Four schools in there that quite frankly don't deserve to be in there. So
Now,
so pulling it back. I have been under this impression all year that I'm just going to be honest with you and everyone listening and or watching. I don't think Miami could get. I think there's a real possibility that unless it's like a close loss in the championship game, unless they win the MAC championship, I think Miami very well could be left out. Now, there's been enough of a buzz made about them this year that I think now it's like, well, no, we can't not put them in. But the
yeah.
committee has done snubs like this before,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and
Now,
yeah, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, like, what the real conversation would be if like Bowling Green would somehow win the tournament,
Hmm.
and then they're both out. But
Well, right.
I think in a universe of like of it's an Akron Miami rematch, and it's 3 points the other way to Akron. Um, I it would be interesting to see if I don't know maybe Miami goes to Dayton. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
That would be very interesting in the hypothetical of like Miami gets a game in Dayton.
And by go to Dayton, you mean becomes a play-in game. It's kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the nice in between, which I'll be real with you, I think Miami would win that game.
yeah.
Given that circumstance,
It's it,
fueled.
it, it's a home game.
Yeah, it is. And I think this is a thing in college basketball anyway that's always been a little bit of a weird thing to me. I would argue that your regular season championship is harder to win than your conference tournament, especially
Mhm,
nowadays that you have circumstances like the Sun Belt's weird, the way they make it so that there's that like
mhm,
stupid amount of bye weeks and stuff like that. Especially nowadays, that has definitely been the case. And I've always thought to myself, it would be cool if the mid-major regular season champions were the ones to get the automatic bid, and then the tournament was kind of your chance to show what you can do type thing. If you're an extra, but then the tournaments wouldn't mean anything. Like there's no perfect system, but
mhm,
obviously Miami's already won. That they won that like last week they won the regular season MAC championship by being undefeated. And so yeah, I think that there's a happy medium, and maybe you just found it there. Maybe that you could see them in the play in game, of course. Now, and maybe that's the best situation as well, right? But obviously, we know kind of how the MAC operates and such, and to have more than one team in would be great for the conference. I'm not going to sit here and say that that wouldn't be great. I'm also sitting here saying, hey, it's still a MAC tournament. Anyone could do it. Golden Flashes. Falcons. Any of the teams could, but typically in the
Now,
mid-major conferences, typically the upsets don't happen as much. But go ahead.
yeah. Well, I just in a universe to where that happens, to where Akron gets in with the auto bid, and then Miami, goes to the play-in game and wins that play-in game. That would be huge for the MAC because that'd be 3 units in 1 year, which is would be
That's true.
crazy.
That is true. That's
At
true.
le
And
at least three.
absolutely. And so, yeah, I'm rooting for the best for the conference, of course. Now, obviously, I'm incredibly biased for multiple ways back.
Mm-hmm.
In a situation, I'm not purposely not bringing those up right now. And obviously, it's my job to cover one team's perspective of the MAC tournament, right? I'm sitting here thinking, well, I want my guys to win the
Yeah,
whole
right,
thing, of
right,
course. Like
right, right.
obviously,
Obviously.
but I'm also, probably I don't know. I kind of pictured myself and yourself as folks who were experts enough on the Mac to kind of weigh in on this. Um, what I'd like to see happen, if I'm being totally honest, I'd like to see two Mac teams get in. And that's me being
Hmm.
objective and me being saying, listen, when I take my fandoms aside and everything, I'd like to see that happen. Pulling back to answer a question that you did ask, though, why is Akron like, obviously being more Akron's margins of victories have been very, very good as of late.
Hmm.
They like pound for pound in the net and Ken Palm have been better down the stretch here. They've played a much harder schedule than Miami, and that's the biggest controversy. Miami has not played very hard of a schedule. Their non-con wasn't, and they've done it under the guise of no one will play us. They're not the only school with that problem. Every decent mid-major program has the same problem. So,
Hmm.
don't sit there and act like you're the only ones with that issue. But the other big thing is if you watch Miami play the last, I don't know, five or so games of the last year, they're incredibly lucky. They play all these games close. They pull it out at the
Hmm.
end, and yes, they've pulled it out at the end. But even Ohio, this past Friday night, a team that has had a bit of a downtrodden year themselves, had beaten Miami for 14 straight years or something at the Convocation Center.
Hmm.
And Miami broke that streak, obviously. So everyone was saying if there's anything that's going to happen, it's going to be a sold out Convocation Center in Athens, Ohio. And granted, it took overtime. It took overtime, and it was still like a two
Yeah.
point victory by Miami. But their margins of victory have everyone's saying, I think they're beatable. So I think all of that together is why the odds makers are like, yeah, I don't know. The Akron's two-time, three-time favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Well, that's definitely fair. And I can see that. I will just counter with one thing too, though, of uh the way Miami's been playing to me indicates that they're a bit more tournament ready, if that makes sense. You,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Like they've played close games. They know how to pull out a win. They know how to, you know, buckle down with 1 minute left and you need 2 points. Like they've been in these positions for a month. Like they know how to do it. And so obviously it's kind of two different ways. It's like a stronger team or a team who's resilient and knows how to find a way to win.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll just have to see what happens. I mean, I can see both ways going. I can see both things happening. But I mean, I also will concede that I've I saw Travis Steele coach at Xavier, so I definitely know. Uh,
Oh no.
so
You
I
did it to
think,
him.
yeah, I think Akron might have the better chance on that one.
And we'll see. And it's fascinating because both John Gross, head coach of Akron, and Travis Steele, head coach at Miami, are guys who I don't believe Travis was in the MAC before. Gross was in the MAC before, went up, got fired, have now come back down, so to speak, to the MAC and
Hmm.
are dominating again. You know what I mean? So it's fascinating to watch, and that's just kind of the beauty of mid-major college basketball. And I've heard a lot of people on a non-fans like positive way to cap this kind of talk off is it's been great to see the love everyone's had for mid-major college basketball this year. The headlines have been all about like not just Miami but the MAC. Like there's been so much more buzz about this level of college basketball,
Hmm.
and I think in large part it's because since the NIL, which we've talked to death on this show, and we will continue talking to death about it because it's the world we live in now. At our level, it still feels like college. It still feels like
Hmm.
college. It still feels like anyone can win. It still feels like you're doing it for the name on the front, and and trying to make the name on the back remembered. And it feels so professional nowadays at the Power Four level, and especially off of a year case in where we're going to talk about, obviously this is March, as it goes on here, but especially a circumstance where my prediction, and this is maybe a good transition, my prediction is that this March is going to be more of the same as last year, where we don't see a lot of Cinderellas again. That's my prediction. I think all this buzz, and I think to myself, man, this is going to be really, really awkward when maybe the Mac gets two bids in there and they both get stomped on in the first round.
Yeah, yeah,
That would
yeah.
be such a like air let out of the balloon of this entire circumstance, don't you think?
Yeah, I that is entirely plausible. And that would definitely feel like it was, like
Anticlimactic.
yeah, it was just like with all these fights to get two teams in, and they just both go out and get clowned. But yeah, I mean, I do think that it's noteworthy that like it's felt pretty much, for the last month and a half that like the storyline in college basketball is Miami and the MAC. Because and I mean, I obviously I will concede, I'm not as plugged into the conversations as I previously have been, but it doesn't feel like there's that many storylines happening in college basketball this year. Like there aren't that many huge names.
I guess and you're right about that. And I can tell you as someone who very much is plugged in, has to be for work. I'll say the biggest question has been, obviously Michigan's been on a run. Arizona's been great too. Uh, Duke is having another fantastic year.
mm,
The likelihood is that one of those three teams is probably going to be your champion.
yeah.
And certainly one of the one seeds. I don't think necessarily that has changed. The thing has
The,
changed.
the two main stories that I saw were, there's the conversation about the guy from Kansas who doesn't want to play against hard teams.
Yeah.
And then and then there's that superstar at USC that like is just off the team.
Yeah,
That
who just left the team. Yeah,
um
it's fascinating. It's almost like you're starting to see this kind of like load management, like I want to
mhm.
control my own destiny stuff, and you're seeing it at the Power Four college level now.
Yeah.
Like we've never, yeah, like I'm starting to see NBA-esque storylines in college basketball right before March, and it's like, what are we doing? And maybe that also is a little bit of what I'm
The
talking about as well.
when I saw that headline about the guy from USC, there was a particular moment from our time in Bowling Green that made me think of that, and I'm sure you know what I'm referring to.
Sure. Yeah,
But
I do. But I think maybe that's also as a contributing factor to what I was referring to as far as it's still feeling like college. I'll go through here. Obviously, your Big East, just your quick the bracket according to Joe Lenardi. Your Duke, Michigan is probably your one seed. Other players across in the regionals, Florida is still up there. Arizona, Florida's the defending
mhm.
champions. People are wondering if they can repeat. Now, the last time Florida won a national championship with Joakim Noah, they decided, hey, let's do that again, and they went back to back. So. Could that happen again? I don't know. They'll certainly be like high on my bracket to do so. But you've also had, let's see here. I just kind of want to go through a few of the other top site seeds here. San Diego, he's got Vanderbilt. He's got Texas Tech as a high seed. Kansas is fourth seed. Arkansas. Again, these are all just projections, but Villanova, Wisconsin's having a great year. St. John's with Pitino, of course, is there, and of course Hurley and UConn are always in the
Mhm.
conversation. Um, the last team to go back to back a number of years ago. You got BYU in the mix, St. Mary's along with Gonzaga, Houston. Some of these are the usual players, but then you got more interesting. You got Kentucky, and then of course down the list on the opposite end of a lot of those, you've got other mid majors such as ETSU. You've got High Point out of the Big South. You've got obviously Miami's hanging in there, Miami, Ohio, that is. Clemson's had a great year. UCLA's in the mix with Mick Cronin. And Navy has been high on the projection to make the tournament this year as well. And then, of course, Painter and Purdue always sitting there.
Hmm.
They were preseason number one. They were number one when I saw them this year. When Kent State, we took a trip to West Lafayette. We played them. They looked like number one. They've since kind of come down to earth a little bit. But hey, the Big Ten's good. What can I say?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, of course, Michigan State. The last piece here that I kind of wanted to hear your take on before we kind of go out, and you don't necessarily need to be as plugged in for this. I just kind of want to hit a question. So you may not know about this about what I do for work. There are insiders that reach out to SIDs like myself about like, hey, just wanted to make sure that a lot of them will kind of say, I'm not going to name names, but a lot of them kind of say like, hey, making sure this is still the contact for such and such program, and also, hey, as we go into March here, just want to make sure that like you're willing to help us out in terms of disclosing info, like the Adam Schefters of the world reach
Hmm.
out to you. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
no, like, but I again, I could name names. There's some pretty big names that do reach out to folks. I'm not going to get into that, but that does happen. And it happened a couple times this year, Casen, before like we were like middle of February, okay? And I was kind of like, is everyone just priming for this coaching carousel in college basketball, men's and women's, let's be real, to be just as crazy as football just was? I think they are.
Hmm.
I think everyone's sitting there like, oh snap, like the next month and a half is gonna be insane. Thoughts on that? Because I think everyone is kind of sitting on pins and needles saying, oh snap, like this could be crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know I don't I mean I know everybody's, waiting for whatever's gonna happen whenever the Michigan State job opens up. Because that's gonna be probably the most coveted piece of information.
Izzo's probably the right.
Um,
Izzo's like the last of the really old guard. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Him and Patino kind of.
yeah.
Patino's moved around.
Um, I'm
Mhm.
I'm I'm sure Travis Steele is gonna get a job. That's gonna
Travis
be
Steele's
the
been talked
thing.
about. John Gross has been talked about.
Yeah.
They're in Columbus as well.
Hmm.
To Dayton as well. I think the Ohio basketball landscape will change, maybe multiple.
Hmm.
Um, there's been talk about that. Anything else you heard?
Um, honestly, I'm sure there's going to be some guys who just kind of make lateral moves.
Mm.
Because I know there's some. I mean, I'm sure there's guys who are maybe not so happy with their position. Like I know that there's been conversations about maybe Mick Cronin's frustration uh
Especially with the
with
travel.
with the travel. I think we all those of you who don't know, Mick Cronin kind of has a reputation for being a psychopath. And UCLA basketball program,
He's outspoken for sure.
but like Mick Cronin, when he took the job, it was weird because it was like this dude does not fit in Hollywood. Like this is like so odd. This is bizarre.
Yeah, if you don't know,
And
he came from Cincinnati
and
out
so
there.
he was at Cincinnati. He made sense at Cincinnati because like he and the Bearcats were psychos, and it made sense. And so I wouldn't be shocked to see him like go to another, you know, middle tier power program that is maybe a bit more basketball focused and that is that he would
I
fit
could see
better in
him.
with the fan
I could
base.
see him going to like a Kansas State. I could see him
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
Yeah, one of these programs that's already kind of where the writing's on the wall.
Well, that
Uh,
that honestly makes like that'd be a good idea. I mean, because Kansas State, like those K-State guys are equally as passionate about their program.
right, and the reason I like that you brought that up because I think we are going to see a lot of moves like that where it's like, hey, the grass is not quite as green as it used to be here. Maybe I should go somewhere where it is more about the basketball, where the NIL and the transfer portal stuff still exists. I mean, you can't escape that no matter where
Hmm.
you go these days. But I like your comfort of life in your seat is just a lot better. I can definitely see a lot of that happening.
I
And
mean,
yeah,
like obviously, like UCLA has a ton of money, and I'm sure NIL there is probably better than a lot of other places. But it's just I do very much wonder if every guy has their own criteria that they look for in jobs, and
sure.
I'm curious on how the landscape of NIL and just sort of the state of college basketball becoming basically professional basketball,
Mm,
on how that affects coaches, like what they're looking for in jobs, and how willing they are to accept certain things at different places.
very true.
And
Very
and so
true.
I do think that you'll see guys make different decisions just to find places that they'll be more comfortable staying at for longer periods of time.
I think you're right. And on that note, I think it's good to transition. We are going to do kind of some brief check-ins here regarding you want to start with the NBA because that is where your kind of expertise has usually lied, and then we can kind of check in on hockey and do our thing here.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly not so much anymore at this point, but um, yeah, I mean the NBA, they're probably one of the bigger headlines in the NBA coming out of the trade deadline. Harden is in Cleveland now,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
really what I wanted
which
you to
is
weigh in
which
on.
is crazy. um, I mean, I yeah, I mean the when I saw the notification or whatever that James Harden was being traded to Cleveland, I was like, what in the
And
world?
hey, it was buzz around my neck of the woods, of course. Of course.
It was an odd, it was just kind of an odd move at first in my head, but seemingly it's worked out pretty well. I mean, he fits really well with Spida, and um, I think he provides an aspect that we lacked with with the roster before that, and so it we'll see, how long he's in Cleveland, but um, because yeah, I mean, we'll get one bad playoff loss this year, and he'll come back next season about 50 pounds heavier and demanding a trade.
I guess my questions down the stretch here are what I've been able to gather in terms of the NBA schedule this year, and it has been cool to, there was a splash when James Harden came to Cleveland this year. No off the wall insane trades like last year with Luca, of course. But then, of course, you have the Detroit Pistons are still at the top along with the Celtics. Your usual players, and then of course the OKC Thunder are still at the top of the West. Really, nothing's too different in the Western side because you got still
Mm,
got Spurs, Rockets, Timberwolves, Nuggets, Lakers, and then of course the play-in, whatever. The play-in brackets are all mainly the same. I'll be real. My Chicago Bulls made some great guard moves at the deadline, and then it proceeded to essentially go back to the 500 to not 500 ball that they are. I thought the Bulls were going to take a step forward, but they did not. So um, I feel like a lot of the headlines with the NBA this year has been a lot of the lack of interest in the season around this time of year. I think part of that
mm,
honestly has to do every year with March Madness and just that college basketball, men's and women's, kind of takes the center stage of this period of time, and then it transitions basketball wise into okay,
yeah.
playoff push and everything. But a lot of my headlines this year that have come through that you and I have talked about when they haven't been Cavs oriented have been commissioner, what the league needs to do, where's
Mm,
LeBron going.
yeah.
There's still a lot of interest there, but I had this sneaky suspicion sitting around thinking to myself, what is the NBA going to do after LeBron's not in it and Steph aren't in it? Because there's so much interest that is going to be, I think, lost in the NBA given the circumstances. And I don't want to have a much bigger conversation here than we really intended to, but um, we haven't had a show in a while for you to sound off about Silver or anything else. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I've made my thoughts and opinions on Adam Silver well known over the show. Um, Yeah, I mean, it's definitely kind of sad at how he seems to have like no real interest in making the league interesting. Like there was, I mean, the All-Star game is a joke. The once great dunk contest is awful. I mean, there's no interest in it anymore because nothing, I mean, nothing's cool. Nothing cool happens. Nobody good is in it anymore.
It seems like more the story coming out of NBA All-Star Weekend every single year now is that it's
Is
not that it's terrible.
yes,
Like
every
that's the biggest.
the headline every Monday after All-Star Weekend is the All-Star Weekend this year sucked.
We should
Like
just
that's
cancel it in general,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
If the conversation every year about your All-Star week, your All-Star weekend or game or whatever is why does this exist? Then you have a problem in your league. Like, I mean, it's there needs to be, more incentives around like the game in particular over what winning means, who gets what benefits. I mean, and also maybe just making it more fun. Like I'm a huge proponent of like just getting rid of the game. Like the actual specific game is just not there's no point in doing it anymore because nobody tries.
Well,
Like it'd be more fun to like have something unique and different that would maybe be fun for the players, like maybe having a 2-on-2 competition between some of the players, maybe having 3-on-3, like just something different that they don't do, like having
well,
them play an actual game that they play every couple nights anyway. It's just not, I think, it's just not fun for them.
Well, and in addition to the NBA check-in, we wanted to do an NHL check-in, and I think this is relevant to both conversations because this is something that's happened since our last show. But the Winter Olympics came and went, and of course,
Hmm.
the United States won both gold medals in uh, men's and women's hockey, of course.
Hmm.
For the men, first time since 1980, of course, the Miracle on Ice. And it seems like the conversation out, and again, I think this is all relevant to this time of year. It seems like the conversation in the hockey coming out of that was that, man, it would be really, really cool if you could capture lightning in a bottle. The Olympics is the Olympics, and you can't really replicate that. But the Olympic years and having the NHL players in it is such an injection into interest into that league every year, every time it's happened. I should say
Hmm.
through history because it hasn't happened the last several Olympics that the conversation coming out of that really was wow, like it would be in of course the World Baseball Classic is going on right now. It's like beginning. It's almost like could you replace the All-Star games, the All-Star weekends, whatever your All-Star circumstance is across sports with something that captures that interest, sort of like the Olympics. Again, the Olympics is the Olympics. You can't replicate that. But you might be able to come up with something a little bit better. The NHL in the past has obviously done that 3-on-3 tournament among the divisions. Has that's had various levels of interest over the years,
Hmm.
but even the players have kind of expressed interest of not necessarily wanting to do it. I think if you had a World Baseball Classic in the middle of the MLB season, I think it would go crazy rather than at the beginning. I know for a lot of reasons you wouldn't do that, and the All Star game is classic and everything in baseball, but I think baseball has a similar issue. People really care for the home run derby; they don't much care about the game, and some are the other way around. I get it, but any thoughts on any of that conversation? Because it really, I was astonished of like, huh, I really got to thinking about, huh, the NHL and could the NBA do something like that, like a World Basketball Classic or something? Go ahead.
I, I think essentially what I think it's kind of I think it's sort of twofold of like the main issue with the All-Star game is mostly just because people don't watch it anymore. And I think that
Which
sort
All
of
Star game?
led
Do you mean All Star games in general, or
honestly in general.
that's what
I
kind of what I'm
mean
getting at? Yeah.
because I people don't watch linear TV the way they used to.
Mm.
And they'll, people will watch games and stuff, but the average fan and viewer isn't going to sit down and watch. every minute of an All-Star weekend, or they're not going to watch all of an All-Star game if it doesn't mean anything and if there's no
Or
point
all
to
of a
it.
season. Let's be real.
Yeah,
Because
or all of a season. I mean, that's
how
also
much of our
true.
sports
Like,
nowadays are on the phone where you might have alerts on about a game, but like,
yeah,
you know, take us for example. Yeah, I work in sports, but because I work in sports, there's certain sports I can't really follow anymore. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Or at least not like I used to when I was more of a fan. Or yourself. I mean, you just life happens, you know, and you have circumstance. You have alerts on your phone and you care about how a team's doing, but you're not going to watch every minute of every season like you used to anymore. If you even have the time to turn on and watch
Hmm.
an event from end to end. I think the only team I'd say that I'm like that still about is the Penguins, just because with their deal with ESPN, it has been easy to watch them. My check in on the Penguins is that Crosby got hurt in the Olympics, and both Canada and the Pens have suffered as a result of his absence. that's my that's my
Yeah,
basic check
yeah,
in
yeah,
on
yeah,
my Penguins. But you
yeah.
see what I mean? I think you're onto something there. The non-linear aspect of how we, quite frankly, consume our media has inadvertently
Which
made the interest in All-Star games and All-Star
which
weekends go out.
which the All-Star game weekend thing was created to bring ratings, when that was all there was.
Very
Like
true.
the leagues, I don't know for sure the history on if there were well if there was like a break in the middle or not, but like they created the All-Star break and the game, as another way to bring ratings in to get more interest into the second half of the season and stuff. And that was when there were, five channels on TV, and and everybody was watching everything. And so it was just kind of like in today's day and age where like the only thing people see from this are clips posted on Twitter. Like and for the last 10 years, the only clips posted to Twitter are who is this guy in the dunk contest? I've never seen him in the NBA before. Like it's not going to bring people to come and watch it. Like
Very true. Very
so
true.
I mean I don't know what that means as far as my opinion on if they should ever and if they should exist or not. I'm just saying that like they don't mean what they used to because people don't care like they used to.
Very true. Very true. Transitioning out of the NBA, and then I'll say a little bit about the NHL, and then we can get into some NFL roster stuff. I screwed our lineup up. I apologize, Casen, for that.
No, that's
But
fine.
all good. We've changed it around. Um, the NHL is back underway. It is always cool to see new fans, a lot of tweets, a lot of people
Hmm.
saying, "Hey, I'm watching hockey for the first time." And honestly, this doesn't really happen as much, but it is kind of cool to see there be an aspect of, "Hey, I liked this player in the Olympics. I'm going to watch his team." You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And just kind of and see how it's going there. But my prediction from about Christmas time, holiday season, has been the Avalanche are on one again this year. The Avalanche with Cale Makar in the squad, they've been the best team in the NHL this year. They're 93 points up. They still are. Um, the Penguins have been a fun story, although they are wavering now without Crosby being there. Part of it is his presence, and at the end of the day, they are an older squad. But obviously, the Florida Panthers are your two-time defending champs. They have struggled this year significantly. It's been through a number of issues. They've also been injured here and there. But the Lightning, the Hurricanes, the Islanders, Sabres are all kind of making a push here in the East. In addition to the West, you have the Anaheim Ducks, who've been a bit of a surprise of the year. Your Knights are still in the mix. Casen, always in the mix. The Oilers are right below them. And then, of course, the Stars and the Wild. The West seems to not change as much these days. But I just have this feeling that it ain't going to be the same two teams in the Stanley Cup final this year. I didn't think it was going to be them last year. So hockey, like the NFL, has been very, very good at keeping its parity going. Any thoughts on the Knights, if you want to?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the same thing you see every, year in year out of, um, you know, mostly dominating a pretty mediocre division. And then they're probably gonna lose in the first round. So it's just like it is what it is, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see.
Shout out the wild card teams too. I just wanted to jump in here. Detroit Red Wings and the Boston Bruins in the East. The West. How about this? Do you know who your two West wild card teams are right now in the NHL? You
Um,
definitely don't.
no,
But
no.
it's funny. The Utah Mammoth and the Seattle Kraken,
Yeah, yeah,
dominated
yeah,
by one expansion team and then a team that moved, of course.
yeah, yeah.
So keep your eyes on that. We're going to transition to some NFL roster discussion because some things have happened. And literally this past week, some things have happened. And it's been a good, it's always good to just check in anyway because, we love it being a football show as well. But like, I feel like, Casen, you very much dressed for that occasion as well. But we're going
Yeah,
to talk about
yeah,
that, and then we're going to talk about some mid pop culture discussion to wrap things up.
yeah.
So let me rip this band-aid off because the worst news I got over the weekend, Kason, do you know what it was?
I would imagine the worst news that you received has two X's in his first name.
Yes. 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 It was already like a wild weekend for me with everything going on just with work. And then, of course, hey, Max Crosby is on the Ravens now. I was like, what? Like someone told me, I had a coworker who's also a Steeler fan break that news to me. And I'm like, well, that's the worst thing that could have happened already in a circumstance. Since our last show, too, obviously both the Browns and the Steelers have new head coaches, and I'm not going to get into that because I wasn't happy about Mike McCarthy becoming the head coach of the Steelers. I'll just say that. But end
Hmm.
of the day, I'm still a Steeler fan. Still, they're always going to be my squad. But yeah, that was awful to see. But yeah, the Raiders have traded Max Crosby to the Ravens.
Yeah, I I get it. I mean, there was a lot of conversation over over him being frustrated with the franchise over, the handling of his injury, and there was talk of him being moved, and I don't know, you hear other deals on the table floated like after these deals are made, and so I don't know how much is accurate and stuff, but from what I've seen following this deal, the other two options on the table were with the Cowboys and the Bears, or at least two of the options on the table. And from what I saw, the Cowboys deal was a one and a two,
Mhm.
which the Ravens gave him two ones, and then the other one was from the Bears, which was also two ones. However, the Ravens pick is higher. I mean, to be totally honest, I would have tried to get like another mid-round pick out of the Bears and then give him to the Bears because I wouldn't want him in the AFC. I don't know why the Raiders traded him to the Ravens
Yeah,
at
that's
all,
the other thing.
to be
Well,
honest.
the one, well, it sort of reminds me of those days back when everyone would make those deals with like the Patriots for whatever
Yeah.
reason, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you giving the Patriots more like ammunition, so to speak? Um, in those days, it was teams that like, oh, when an NFC team would do that, I'm like, at least they're doing it out of the AFC. The one response I'll have to that is it's not like the Raiders are contenders anytime soon. Like they're not going to see the Ravens and see Max Crosby in the playoffs here anytime soon. That move to me very much looks like, hey, we're rebuilding.
Well,
This
I
is
mean,
officially us rebuilding.
sure. I mean, sure, but like they could, like they with how much
Years
cap
from now,
space.
maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, but like with the picks that they have and the cap space being what the cap is, like they easily could rebuild very quickly. Like look at the Bears. Like
Yeah.
the Bears were awful and then they just went to the playoffs. Like it's like it's doable.
Well, they got Ben Johnson, but yeah, I see. I mean, that's what happened there. But yes, it is doable. It is. The Have you seen the memes at all of like what Fernando Mendoza is going to look like in 5 years? Have you seen those at all?
No,
Where they
no.
show Max Crosby when he got drafted out of Eastern
Oh,
Michigan
okay.
versus
Yeah,
what he looks like
yeah,
now.
yeah,
They've
yeah.
showed, and what's scary about technology nowadays is like they show like Fernando Mendoza on draft day because he's the projected number one overall pick to the Raiders. And then 5 years from now, he's got like neck tattoos. He's got a beard. He's
Yeah.
like rugged and all that stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, listen, I don't know about the tattoos, I don't know about any of that, but wow, that actually does look like him 5 years from now. Like they aged him. I was like, they aged him perfectly. I was kind of creeped out by that. Um, yeah, that's probably what he would look like. But yeah, that's been funny to see what's going on. Another piece that I wanted to get your take on: Stephon Diggs released by the Patriots, or at least has been notified he's going to be released whenever the new league year starts.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it I mean, I can't say I'm surprised.
I'm not either.
Yeah, I don't think he fit very well. And I think there was a bit of a circus. There's an outstanding legal issue
Of
as
course,
well. So yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm surprised. I don't really know how much he has left in the tank at this point anyway.
nope, I'm not
Yeah.
surprised either. Any other like deals you really wanted to get into?
Um, well, I don't think I mean I think our last show was before the Super Bowl, so I think
It was
that
before. Yep.
yeah, so the Seahawks yeah, that game was something else. But I think it kind of went the way that we kind of talked about. I don't remember if we talked about it on the show or not, but it was just kind of like I knew that this Patriots team was early and would not be ready.
Well, I not to delve into the Super Bowl, but our last show was also before the national championship for
Yeah, yeah.
college football as well. I know we spent the bulk of it talking about that because the playoffs kind of still had yet to
Hmm.
unfold. I'll say this regarding that last year in the NFL, in really football in general. What a weird year in football in general.
Hmm.
Just it wasn't one of those years where necessarily we were on here talking about it every single week like we had in the past. And in some ways, that was a good thing because there were some things that happened where I'm like, I have no explanation for this. But the one thing I absolutely had an explanation for is the Patriots coming through the AFC. I think you can chalk that up now to probably there are some teams that have made it to the Super Bowl that are some of the worst to ever make it there, right? Obviously, I would argue that the Patriots now have at least two of them. This one that just got stomped on by the Seattle Seahawks in a way that looked like they didn't belong there. Like it was like this team
Well,
like
they
how
didn't.
is
They
this?
didn't.
They didn't belong there, and they truly and
I mean, they had a joke of a schedule.
yeah,
They would have
Drake May looked
yeah.
scared, legitimately scared against that.
They would have lost the Broncos if Bo Nix played. I mean, it
Correct.
was obvious.
Correct. That's what I was
Mhm.
getting at. That's of course the thing that led to what we had in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I will add also that had Bo Nix and the Broncos won that game and had been healthy, I should say, and won that game against the Patriots, they still would have lost to the Seahawks because I think the Seahawks were just kind of built differently on defense this
Yeah.
year,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
solidifying themselves as one of the more stable, solid franchises in the NFL in
Yeah.
our lifetime at very least. Go ahead.
Well, it's just very funny because the funniest part to me about that Super Bowl was watching all the Ravens fans live tweet that game and say this guy could have been our head coach.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting, right? But I think at a time also where you see radical moves being made across the board, like why not let give this guy a shot? Who knows what could work? No one knows what the future holds. Um, I also wanted to add this because part of that controversy with through the AFC, of course, not even really controversy, but our last show you sounded off again on your favorite team, the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills acquired DJ Moore from the Bears with a 2026 fifth round pick in exchange for, or along with a 2026 fifth round pick in exchange for a 2026 second round selection. Solid pickup for the Bills, but I'm also sitting here like, oh, is that what's going to get you over the hump now? Is that the issue? Is that
Yeah,
finally the thing that's going to make it happen?
like to me,
with
that's
Sean,
like
with
kind
with
of
McDermott gone and everything.
yeah, like that's like kind of insane. I mean, obviously they needed receivers and but like a second round pick for like one receiver that isn't going to fix all the issues that they have is like kind of crazy to me.
Yep.
um Especially just kind of like I mean, with where they're at, I mean, it's like with who the Bills are now, you don't need another expensive receiver. Like you like I don't know his contract right now, but like it's just kind of like with how they're formed, with Josh on a huge deal, with a lot of their other players on their second contracts, it's like you need cheaper younger guys that you know you can develop and and sort of fill those roles without having to pick up more veterans that are on big deals that you can't
Absolutely.
afford. Like
Absolutely.
because
For sure.
it's like that like that's where the Chiefs are right now, where they're having to get rid of a lot of their expensive veteran guys just in order to be able to like sustain themselves as a franchise.
Yep. One last deal, not deal. I keep saying deal. One last move here that I think we should touch on as the, we're a good month away from the draft, but it's fascinating to see what's up. Kyler Murray is going to be released by the Arizona Cardinals, so that era is officially done in Arizona. Once upon a time known as Call of Duty Kyler, very much still is kind of that.
Hmm.
That never really went away. Uh, Thoughts on that? I think that's obviously more of a predictable move by the Arizona Cardinals. However, I just think it grabs more headlines when someone who was touted to be a franchise QB and by all intents and purposes kind of was for the last half decade is now gonna at least be on a new roster.
Yeah. Um, Kyler's an interesting guy because, you know, uh, much like his uh, fellow Oklahoma quarterback, Baker, there were size concerns. Um, and then, Bryce Young size concerns. So the big size thing was originally with like Kyler and stuff
Yeah,
because he was the assumed number one pick for most of the season.
and that predated
And
and that predated Jalen Hurts coming
yeah,
in post
yeah,
Alabama. But like
and
that endless string of like kind of smaller, fast Oklahoma quarterbacks.
right, right, and uh, the thing with Kyler has just all kind of always been like work ethic and his
Mm.
dedication to actually playing. Because it was like there was the whole conversation the about the like study requirements in his contract, and then it was just like I mean you see it happen a lot. Like they gave this young kid $200 million, and then he just like was posting up on his Xbox every double XP weekend, and it was just like and when the biggest conversation about your franchise quarterback is um well, there's a double XP weekend this weekend, so let's fade Kyler Murray, and then it works every time
Then it works,
because
yeah.
without fail he was up late last night playing Call of Duty. Like
Hey,
it's just it was so funny for such a long time because it was so predictable,
it
and then he became very injury prone all the time,
it's a funny
and
joke. Like it's a funny joke. Like on the internet, like haha, like Call of Duty. It's a funny joke, and until especially internally at Arizona Cardinals, until they notice, oh snap, they actually are onto something.
yeah.
it's it's working.
Until it's true. Yeah,
It must be
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a funny joke until it's true. Yeah. I mean, my only thing is, it's like, well, w it'll be interesting to see because somebody's gonna get Kyler Murray for like $1 million, and he can go somewhere who's basically a half competent quarterback away from being interesting. So we'll see what that is.
Well, as
Um,
of 23, about 24-ish hours ago, right now, the Vikings seem to be high on that list, which makes sense.
yeah,
Which makes
I
perfect sense.
would be interesting because
Yep.
because shocker, JJ McCarthy sucks. Who could have seen that coming?
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, like the Vikings are a pretty complete team in what
Yeah,
overnight has turned into a snake pit of a division. It was
yeah,
always pretty tough, but now everyone's tough, especially when you're pretty good in the Vikings, and you are
Mhm.
still like the fourth best team in the in the division
Yeah, I mean,
last year.
and hey, I mean that team. I mean, it. Look, if I'm Kyler, I want to go there because it's like they're pretty well rounded. They were able to, or Kevin O'Connell was able to rehab Sam Darnold into
Yeah,
winning a Super Bowl the next year. So we'll see what happens. I mean, because there's a handful of teams that could use him. I mean, like the Raiders could sign him to to let Mendoza sit for a while. The Browns could use him. I mean, there's so many teams that could use him at that price, and it'd be up to him to pick. And I'm picking. I would pick the Vikings out of a handful of teams because
Kyler
I mean
Murray,
you
like
got the receivers,
you got the
you got
coaching. They're a complete
coaching.
team. They really just need a quarterback. I mean, that's really
Yeah.
like if they had a solid quarterback, they'd be just as nasty as everyone else in that division. They already are. It's just they
Yeah,
need a
yeah.
quarterback.
But then
Um,
but then that leaves the Cardinals without a quarterback and not really any way of getting one.
no, and it, yeah, and when you're the Cardinals, it's like, look, we're the worst team in the NFC West. Okay, like what what are we to do? I while you were two thoughts came to my mind during you speaking there. One was Kyler Murray with the Vikings next year would remind me of like the Bridgewater Viking days, first of all.
Hmm.
Second, my absolute dog of the entire NFL season is Sam Darnold, honestly.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
if there's anyone who like you talk about a season that completely changes the narrative of a dude's entire career. It's that.
Hmm.
And also, I wanted to add one more thing. His post game interview for the Super Bowl was awesome because the first thing out of his mouth was, "I'm thinking about all the things that didn't go right in that game." Dude, you just won the Super Bowl. Like, what? And I'm thinking to myself, dude,
Yeah.
that he's a dog, man. I don't know what to tell you. He's sitting here like, man, I'm just sitting here like we could have played so much better. It didn't it should have been close at the end. I'm like, it wasn't close, darn it, Sam. It wasn't.
It
Uh,
was not even particularly
history
close.
history
Yeah.
will show that you guys rolled up into your biggest rival's home stadium and destroyed a team that should not have been there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was what it was. That's the last roster move I wanted to touch on. Do you want to get into this pop culture topic that I have to kind of cap things off?
Yeah. Yeah. Because this is
This is a bit of a doozy,
yeah.
and it
Yeah.
can delve a bunch of different directions. So I'm going to do our best. Let's do our best to kind of keep it on the rails here. Our last topic here that I really wanted to get into, and just to kind of set the stage because we hadn't talked about it at all, the fate of what was going to happen to everything under the Warner Brothers tentpole has been essentially like we've talked about it here and there, but obviously renewed interest with obviously Superman last year and Supergirl upcoming, and nothing like that is imminent to not happening. But Warner Brothers as a whole, uh, how do you put it? Warner Brothers as a whole has been for sale, essentially.
Hmm.
And up until the turn of the new year, it looked like Netflix was going to be the winners of the bidding war. And then Paramount essentially launched what was called a hostile takeover attempt bid to essentially triple down and up their, billions of dollars of their um, offer to try and acquire all of Warner Brothers. And as of this taping, beginning of March here, they have won out, kind of in a stunning kind of change of things because it really hadn't been said, but it quietly sounded like Netflix was like, no, we're still going to go ahead and grab that. And I guess Paramount has outbid them, and Netflix doesn't necessarily want to keep pace. And as of now, it looks like Paramount is going to own all of what's under Warner Brothers. That is the story. I think we should weigh in on it. And that I think we should. I really think we should. I think we
Yeah.
need to, quite frankly, due to the nature of what our show is and what it could mean. So, what are your thoughts kind of on the whole process and where things sit now?
Well, for one, it's a pretty large acquisition that creates um if it is a deal that under most normal circumstances would never be allowed to happen, first of all. Um, under normal circumstances, it would not be approved of a as a merger or an acquisition for monopoly reasons. Um, Along with the fact of Paramount's recent acquisition i- i- is steering the company in a direction that has unfortunately uh, unfortunately, there will be a bad future for Warner Brothers with the owners of Paramount. Um, and so when we talk about everything under the Warner Brothers tentpole, we're talking about the future of the DCU essentially, of the once promising looking DCU headed by James Gunn is now suddenly, thrust into, murkiness and potentially chaos. Of
Definitely uncertainty, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
And not to get into the thick of things, but I think that it would have been uncertain even if Netflix acquired. Let me also say that, just because anytime there's wholesale changes like this,
Hmm.
where there was just a wholesale change at the head of DC, which I will also add, Warner Brothers has a lot of IPs under them, but the most in-your-face one that we would talk about on this show is that one, right?
Hmm.
Is the DCU and whatever was going to happen with James Gunn. And I say whatever was going to happen
Well,
because we
the
don't know
the
what's going to happen
other
now. Go ahead.
the other big one is Harry Potter with
That's true.
the Harry Potter television series underway. That is another huge IP.
The HBO properties as well,
Mhm.
just everything that's on there essentially. I mean, all of that's under Warner Brothers. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think that it's impossible to talk about this without necessarily this is not a political show, and it never will be, never has been. We've never really delved into that, but I think it's impossible to mention that a lot of the fear comes from of what the media could do based on the idea that people at the top of Paramount might have a political agenda in pushing certain media types. I don't know how micromanaging really, in my belief, that's going to become, just because it seems very, but we don't know. We don't know. And I think that's where a lot of the fear has stemmed on the yeah, I would say greater political spectrum of a media deal like this. Would you agree? Because that's a lot of
Yeah,
where the fear is stemming from.
the bigger question is whether or not the people at the head of Paramount have personal and or ideological issues with other execs such as James Gunn, individually, and so therefore they will do what they need to get him out. It is sort of essentially like what we're looking at as potentially what's
What could take place?
what could take place is if the new owners of Paramount, say we don't like you and what you're doing, then, get him out.
I would say that that would be incredibly disappointing. Uh, it just would be. I mean, it is kind of amazing to sit here and think that if there is a large ideological shift of that ultimately ends up that Gunn's not at the head of this anymore. Two things come to mind. I'm just gonna be sitting here thinking, man, because at the end of the day, uh, politics in the United States is constantly changing, and moves like this should not be made for like the immediate right now. Moves like this should be made for like we're talking about the next 20 years, 15, 20 years worth of content and cool entertainment under this tent pole. And I don't want there to be a situation where we're talking about a year from now where like forbid, universe forbid that he's out and we're sitting here like, man, those two movies we got under the Gunverse were pretty cool. Two movies being
Yeah.
what in our opinion was a pretty good Superman movie, and whatever Supergirl is going to be,
Hmm.
which looks pretty good as well. So I am sitting here and on the very, very base level, hoping, fingers crossed, that that does not happen. I hope just, you stand to make more money and make better content long run if you leave things as they are.
Mhm.
I'd rather see some things, some strings pulled of like, hey, could scenes be altered and stuff like that? I don't know, but I'd like to sit here and think maybe like we stand to make a lot more money in the next 10 years if we just kind of let things be as they are. But hard to say. Well, I'm not going to sit here and get into how it could change the channels and that content underneath the Paramount tentpole. I'm not going to get into all of that because a lot of this is wholesale changes, and a lot of which we may never even notice, to be completely honest, until we're well past this move. But for now, suffice to say that on the very base level, that is what has you and I concerned.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you have any further comment, prediction on that side of things? Because it sounds like this could still change. I mean, that's the thing that as of like this next week,
Yeah.
I've as of this past couple weeks is like, yeah, but it's not totally done deal yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I, the, this acquisition space is so, by the day, things change. And so
It's precarious.
I would imagine it does end up getting done just because
Me too.
it feels like, you know, if Paramount wants to acquire this company, then they're gonna acquire this company. So it feels like it's kind of inevitable. However, what that looks like is really gonna be totally unknown.
Mm.
So we'll see. I mean, all we can hope for is that, you know, they'll just kind of leave him alone for a while. But
At least for this first phase, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Because my on a positive note, let's say that they do ultimately replace him down the road. My hope is that he can get at least a whole first phase out of what this is to kind of set things up well, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that regardless if they end up getting someone else in there, if that is their goal, because they haven't, nothing like that's been expressed at all. I can sit here and hope. Well, at very least that the clock was wound up and put in motion. What they decide to do with it now, we will know clearly whose fault it is. It ain't James Gunn
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
it goes bad. If it goes bad,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
also could still be very good. So
Yeah.
that's our show. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, chiming in. To let us know your opinions on anything that we talked about, and maybe the things we didn't talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know I
Sorry about that.
we missed a lot of information and news and stories
Well,
in the absence. So it's,
we're doing the best we can. I will give
yeah.
one last plug because March is the second best sports month,
Mm,
Casen, which we've talked about before. I forgot to mention what my hat. My hat is Williams Racing
mm.
for Formula One, and the monster that I've been drinking. Shameless plug is Lando Norris's. I didn't even realize that. I was like, oh yeah, the monsters I have in my fridge. They're the Lando Norris monster flavor, the citrus. So, there probably will be more Formula One discussion in our future on this channel. But that's all you get today. The season's underway. Australian Grand Prix was overnight. Kaysen, thank you as always, my friend, as we chug through whatever the sports landscape is going to look like. And this is still March. This is indeed March. So, that being said, this is Kellen,
This is Kason.
and we'll see you at the next stop.